Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. Today's guest is Saahil Mehta. He's an entrepreneur, author, speaker, and mountaineer, which is really intriguing, who helps high performers really cut through the noise and reset perspective and helps people live with clarity and intention, which I absolutely love. What Sahil does is he's drawing on real world experience and not just from building businesses globally, but to climbing some of the world's toughest mountains as well, which we'll have a chat about. It challenges how we think about success, presence, and mental toughness, which is obviously a passion of mine. So we're going to explore today clarity as a performance edge, sustainable discipline, and what it really means to live without regrets. So let's get into it. And Sahil, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Rob.
So let's get into it. Why don't we start with living without regret? I know I've worked very hard throughout, I was just talking about it yesterday, actually, like through 4 decades now to overcome a lot of fears and limiting beliefs. And I'm at that stage in my life where I'm not going to go to my grave wondering what if. It's like, oh, what if I did this? And so I'd like to get your perspective on, what's the real cost of living with regret, mentally and physically as well.
Absolutely. That's a great question. Let's start by understanding what causes regret. It's a bit like what you said, Rob. I wish I spent time pursuing my hobbies. I wish I spend more time with my friends and family. I wish I would spend more time on taking care of my health. I wish, there are, and this has been documented, this has been researched. There are five regrets that usually crop up. And none of them really talk about how high you went up the corporate ladder or how successful you were in your business. And when I say success, this is really the external definition of success that a lot of people
Yeah.
run by, which is usually a combination of fame and fortune.
Yes.
So what I found, maybe as a 20-year-old, if I'm not mistaken, or in my late teens, I thought to myself, if I were a millionaire and lived in a nice house, married with kids, driving a fancy car, being able to travel the world, that's it. I've made it. Now, fast forward till to the point when I was 36 years old, I checked all those boxes.
Mm.
And I'm driving a Porsche. I'm traveling. I don't have any debt, personal debt. I'm just thinking this. I should be celebrating. I should be feeling ecstatic. I should be jumping up and down with joy. But it was more like a eh.
Mm.
And it's not that I
Well,
didn't appreciate the position that I was in, Rob. I was very grateful, but I just wasn't feeling the emotions I thought I was supposed to be feeling. And as I started to dig deeper, I realized I was not living my definition of success, but rather one that was inherited,
yeah.
right? One that came from family, community, society, social media. I mean, you name it, all these influential factors, but it wasn't my definition. And when I look back now, over a decade later, I'm thinking, hey, we all are so unique that we have a fingerprint that only belongs to us. Yet we all have similar definitions of success. That makes no sense to me.
Mm.
We should have our own unique definition. And so I kind of went on this quest to understand what success means to me, because ultimately, success is about feeling a certain way. Why do you buy something? Why do you have an experience? It's because it gives you a feeling. That's what we're chasing. We're chasing a feeling. And what's the opposite of regret? Because regret is a feeling. What is the opposite of regret? That's fulfillment. And
Mm.
how do you get to fulfillment is if you're living the definition of your definition of success on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So the first step is really define what success means to you, because once you have that clarity, decision making becomes oh so much easier.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying there. How do you think, I know how I went about it, but how do you think people actually go about practically defining what success means to them?
That was that was the struggle that I faced, Rob. When I was
Mm,
asking myself these questions, I said, well, I want to figure it out. I want to figure out what it means to me. I read a lot of things. I tried a lot of different methods. And I always tell people, look, there's many paths up a mountain. There's not just one,
mm,
right? There's not like somebody put a staircase on a mountain and said, just climb up this staircase and it'll take you to the
yeah.
summit. No, there's many paths up. And the one that resonated with me was a culmination of different things that I had experienced and or read about. And so I created a new framework, and it goes a little something like this. In the mountaineering world, when you climb the seven summits, that's the tallest mountain on each of the seven continents, it's like you've conquered the world. So I thought to myself, well, what about conquering your inner seven summits?
Mm,
And why seven? Seven has a nice ring to it. Seven summits, seven colors of the rainbow, lucky number seven, and so forth. Seven comes up in many different areas of our life. And some people said, well, why not three or four? That would have made our life easier when we're doing this. I said, well, if I asked you for three, you're just going to say health, wealth, and relationships.
mm,
That's too easy. When it's seven, it pushes you and encourages you to think beyond the obvious and find out what is special for you. So, in my case, for example, fun and recreation came up as one of the seven.
yeah.
And now, whenever I have to make a decision, I don't ask myself, how much more money am I going to make? Because that was the previous version of me.
Yeah.
I had these blinders on like the horses have. And I just thought more numbers, bigger numbers, that's the way to go. But when I made that decision, what was I sacrificing? That wasn't clear to me. So now I have these seven summits, which I've prioritized. And I'd like to add, I also, not just did I prioritize them, I also know which ones are rubber balls and which ones are crystal balls. What do I mean by that? You're juggling these seven on a daily basis.
Mm,
And some of them, if you drop, like the rubber ball, it can bounce back. And I
yeah.
look at that as finance, for example. You've heard of so many stories of people who've lost everything and then they've come back strong. And then you have other things which are crystal balls, like family or health. The last thing I want is to get to a health situation where it becomes chronic or it becomes at a point where I can't turn it around because now I'm on medication for life, for example. That's a
Yeah.
crystal ball. So as I'm juggling these and I prioritize them and I know which ones are rubber balls and crystal balls, I now ask myself at every major decision, what is the net effect on these seven summits? Because if the overall direction is up, that's good. That's worth considering, and perhaps I should make that decision. But if the net effect is down, then the next question I ask myself, well, is it a temporary down? Because I have sacrificed fun and recreation temporarily when push came to shove, and then it came back. But the mistake I did not want to make, Rob, and there's the business owners that I coach, so many of them tell me, I'm just sacrificing my health temporarily.
Yeah.
I'm just sacrificing my health temporarily. And then 6 months later, I tell them, hey, I just want to point this out to you. It's not a sacrifice anymore. It's a lifestyle choice because every time that instance was complete, you then found another reason to sacrifice health or family or whatever your priorities
Yeah.
were. So be honest with yourself. Don't say family is my first priority when it's not. So this is a real, it's a hard lesson. I had to, because it's like core values when you enter a company. You can have all these fancy words, but they mean nothing if you don't live by them. So I had to look,
That's
I
right.
look at these seven summits on a daily basis so that I'm always aligned. And again, when I make a decision, if it's overall up or it goes up with a temporary dip, it's okay. But if the overall direction is down, now I have more clarity to say no. And that's usually what ends up with regret because you did the things that weren't aligned to the life you wish to lead, which is your definition of success.
That's a great answer. I think I look at how I've advanced and progressed over life, and when when you're starting out, you do think about those fundamental things. It's like your safety, your needs are taken care of financially. You want to get to that point in your life where you're financially free. And then once you get to those points, you start to realize that they were necessary foundations, but they're not what cause you the ultimate happiness. And your success is so much more than that. It's the human being that you are. It's the value that you're adding to everybody else. And I don't know whether there's just a whole lot of bad stuff that needs to happen in your life or something needs to shift. A different cog needs to switch on in your brain to realize that, oh, I start to get it now. And success for me is looking at a whole range of different things around your life. You absolutely have to love the process of doing it. But once you've achieved the things that you want, you want to achieve more things. But if they're not aligned with your values and beliefs, then it's really not something that's going to make you more successful. Even if it brings you more money, if it's misaligned, like I use the example, like I don't drink or smoke, and that's not for any particular reason. It's just a lifestyle choice. Uh, I could never invest in a cigarette company. I could never invest in, all the celebs that come out with tequila and all that kind of stuff. That's just not me. I couldn't do that. It's not, doesn't make them wrong. It's just, it doesn't align with me. And so even if there was millions of dollars to be made there, I would say, no, that's not for me. I'm sorry. It just doesn't align with my health and wellness goals. And so I do think that you get to that life where you work out what are your non-negotiables. Like I believe that everybody should have their health as their number one priority ahead of family. And some people say, no, my religion comes first. And it's like, well, if you're dead and your health is zero, then none of that really matters anymore. So put it as number one, lead your best life, then you can be better for everybody else, as well as who your religious leader is. So yeah, I do think that I don't know. What's your thought on that? Do you
Yeah,
think we
you've
get to
tapped into
a
so
point
many
where
important points, Rob. You've
do,
really tapped into a lot of important points. I mean, core values, first of all. I always tell someone, you sleep with yourself every single night. You're in your head. And either
yeah,
you can sleep with peace, or there could be something that's disturbing you because of some action that you took that day. And
yeah,
if taking that action, sorry,
or didn't take.
or didn't take, absolutely, you're right. It has to align with who you are, and that gut feeling, that sixth sense, is such a great guide. Because if it
Mm,
doesn't feel right, it generally means it's not right for you. And I love the way you placed it. It's not about whether something is good or bad. And by the way, things that were bad in my life, many years later, they became good. It's just when my perspective changed,
yeah,
something that was terrible in that moment, it seemed horrible. But I look a few years later, and that same instance, I'm like, wow, I'm so glad that happened. So what
mm,
is good and what is bad? Sometimes we have to reflect on that as well, because the same thing we were calling good could be bad, or vice versa. But coming back to what you were saying, I love how you articulated it, because you knew what success meant to you. You knew that health was your number one priority. You knew that that was not aligned with your health summit. And that's the reason why you said, in your case, you declined to pursue anything in that space,
mm,
even if there was a monetary gain, because the health summit was far more important as a higher priority than the
yeah,
finance one. Not saying finance is not important. We all need money to live. We all are looking for that financial stability. But again, at what cost? Will you sell your soul to the devil
yes.
just to make money? Can you live with yourself once you do that? So I love the way you shared your story. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, let's talk about mental toughness and maybe clarity for a second. What do you see that separates somebody that is like very focused, driven, mentally tough and I'm talking about when the pressure comes on. I find pressure is great because that to me it reveals the real person. Because anyone can, like I'll say, fake fake an existence and say, oh, yeah, I would do this and do that. Okay, well, now let's just apply the pressure. And I think, like here, I live in Melbourne, Australia. We were locked down more than any other country in the world um, during COVID. Remember that old thing back then?
Mm.
And that revealed a whole bunch about people. And so here in Australia, for instance, I think people spent an extra $2 billion on alcohol in Australia during COVID. Most people's health did what? Deteriorated. Now, during that time, my health actually got better because I got more focused in that time. And so I do find the pressure is, a great revealer of things. But what do you see that separates somebody that's, is able to mentally thrive, I suppose, where others in those pressure environments tend to unravel?
What I've seen either with myself or with the business owners that I coach is the people who have more, there's two things. One is the people who have more clarity on what is important for them. When pressure comes, they're very clear on what needs to stay and what needs to be let go of. Because if, for example, I told you, Rob, instead of 24 hours in the day, you're now only going to have 20. There's a whole bunch of things you're going to have to shed. Now, if you don't know what your
Mm,
priorities are, if you don't know what your seven summits are, or whatever your definition of success, if you're using a different methodology, how do you know the stuff that you're shedding is the stuff that's going to serve you or not? But when you know, in your case, you said health is number one for me, because if I take care of myself, I can fulfill all the other roles far, far, far better. You know that's not something
mm,
that you will sacrifice. But if you had no idea of what's important to you and you're just kind of chugging through life, you might pick the right thing, you may not pick the right thing. We don't know. So
yeah.
that's one thing. Clarity of knowing what's important for you, your definition of success is absolutely key, because when there's pressure, usually that means time is time's maybe moving faster, or things are critical. You become really focused. And it's
Mm,
almost like you went from wide vision to focus vision, where you just see that thing in front of you and everything else is just a blur.
yes.
And the other thing that I've seen that works with a lot of the amazing leaders I work with is they go through what if scenarios.
Hmm.
Now, it's not a what if scenario that what if dinosaurs come back next year? It's something that is so unlikely, but
Yeah.
something that probably could happen. And when they've discussed it in a time or thought about it, when their mind is at ease, it's almost like they've done the exercise in their head so that if it does happen, they don't need to think under an emotional state where they might be more reactive,
Mm,
right? Because and that's really what differentiates these people is the ones, one, they have focus, they have clarity, they don't get emotional. They're processing their emotion, and then they're just focused at the task ahead. Because when something happens, and I give you the example on mountains, imagine at 20,000 feet trying to make a critical decision because something went wrong or went sideways. It's not going to happen. Air is thin. We're tired. Some people might be semi delusional. I don't know. But if we've
mm,
discussed those what ifs at ground and we're very clear on what happens and who does what, when it does happen, there's no discussion. We just execute. We've already
yeah.
practiced it. It's like these fire drills. Why do you keep doing the drills? Because when the fire happens,
You know
it's
what to
it's
do.
you're just processing something that you've already memorized. You've already gone through it. It's muscle memory in a way. But if you're
Mhm.
just a deer in headlights, that's going to be a pretty bad situation. So again,
Yeah.
just to repeat, you have clarity on what success means to you, so you shed the things that are less important and focus on the things that matter most. And in addition to that, you've gone through these what if scenarios so that when it does happen, you've already processed it in your mind, or you've actually physically done it as well, and now you just execute.
When you're coaching, and say you've gone through that process to ask people to have the clarity around the things that are important to them, but they're coming from like it's different when you're working with a high performer because they've already got a track record, they know what focus is and so forth. And maybe it's just about saying, well, you're focusing on too much, focus on this part. Somebody that is, say, a few steps back from that, and they're, oh, if I just say all over the place, you know what I mean. You know, they're stuck in the transactional stuff of life, their business, or they're an employee, and they they're the busiest people on the planet. Oh, I'm just so busy. And you break it all down, and it's like, it's all transactional stuff. It's not the transformational things that are going to help move them to where they talk about wanting to be, but they'll never get there because they're stuck in the transactional stuff. So let's just say they've gone through a step, they've got some clarity and say, yeah, I know my health's important. I know that, my financial freedom, these other aspects are really important. What's some tips maybe we could give some people to say, well, how do you now take create some focus so you're still not thinking, yeah, I've got all these things to do, but now I'm still overwhelmed, it's too much. How do we create some focus to then start implementing rather than just thinking about it and talking about it?
Sure. So look, I'm going to make one assumption here, and that I'm going to assume that the person is willing to work on themselves to become a better version of themselves. I mean, the fact that someone comes to me for coaching already indicates they've taken a step forward in the right direction. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's the assumption I'm going to make rather than someone who's been forced to come, who doesn't want to be there.
that's
Because
right.
that
I'm not
person
going
I
to
can't help. You can't change someone who just does not want to change. And I'm not even trying to change them, but if someone's not coachable, forget about it. It's just a
Yeah,
waste of time for them and for me.
yeah,
So that's the assumption I'm making. There are two things that come to mind immediately. One is, and perhaps you've heard of this book by Brian Tracy, "Eat That Frog" or "Eat the
yes.
Frog." I forget the exact title. And
Yeah, I think it's Eat the Frog.
yeah, and he talks about what are those 1 to 3 priorities of the day, that if you complete them, it's taking you forward in the direction that you wish to move in life. So you would then consider successful. Because I know so many people who do lots and lots of tasks and errands and things, and then they feel like they haven't achieved much by the end of the day.
Mm,
Because the reality is, maybe something was not so pleasant, but they had to deal with it, and they just chose to shun it, right? They don't want to confront it that day for whatever reason. So, what are things that would shift the needle for you? So, I usually have on a daily basis 1, 2, or maximum 3 things that must be done that day, and I usually do them first.
yep.
And that's something I picked up from Brian Tracy. The second is from my mentor and dear friend, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, is what we call the daily questions. And the daily questions is a set of questions that you ask yourself where you can rate yourself from 1 to 10. And these are active questions. So what do I mean by that? Did I do my best to, and then dot, dot, dot,
Yes.
right? It's not just, did I do this, which is a yes or no. Did I do my best to not pass judgment on others? And how do I rate myself from a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10?
Yes.
And I ask myself a set of, minimum 6 questions on a daily basis. Now, what that does is it brings it front of mind, because if I'm not thinking about it and it's just something that will be discussed in the next coaching session, which is 2 weeks or 4 weeks later, that's maybe a
Yep.
bit too late. But if it's a
Yep.
set of questions that I'm asking myself on a daily basis, and I usually do it in the evenings, but some people like to do it in the morning for the previous day. So whatever works for you. But if you do that consistently at the same time, you're thinking about it every single day.
Mm,
And it almost, for me, it pushes me forward, because if I keep seeing zeros or a 1 in my case, which is the lowest rating, I feel pretty crap that I'm not making any progress whatsoever. And if
yeah.
I still continue to see zeros after weeks, clearly that was an important question. I need to replace it with something that's more important. But here's the thing. I sometimes feel that I'm not accountable enough. So I created an app, and now this app is reminding me. Now, an app is still not another person. And so when I feel that I'm really need external help, I've paid someone, and all their job is only to call me every single day at a particular time and just answer the 6 questions. They record my answers. They don't question it. They don't judge it. They don't do anything. They just record and send it back to me. But just knowing that someone is going to call me and ask me these questions, it encourages me to get those things done, or at
Yeah.
least make a good effort in getting them done.
Yes. Has
So
there
these
been?
are two techniques that I would recommend to the listeners, which are not so difficult to apply. Well, they're easy to understand, but they may be difficult to apply. But again, with practice, you just get better and better at it.
Yeah, yeah, which is a nice segue into the next part of that, which is, uh, have you found for yourself that there was a time where you perhaps, I talk about, you know you've had a really great day. Yeah, you've been productive, you felt like you've grown your business, grown yourself, you've had good outcome for clients and all that kind of stuff. Pardon me. And then maybe you get to the end of the week and you've had a really great week, but then you notice a couple of weeks down the track, oh, probably become a little bit comfortable. And, why am I not productive now as I was perhaps a couple of weeks ago? And you've just allowed you've kind of ridden that wave of success, and then you've allowed it to come down. But there comes a point in time where you realize that, oh gosh, I'm not being as productive. I've become too complacent, et cetera, et cetera. That used to happen to me. And I tied it back to, well, how much personal growth am I doing? What are those, like you said, your questions there? Why am I not doing that every day? Why am I only doing it when I started to improve myself? It was Monday to Friday. I'm like, right, these are the exact things. I wrote them all down. There's like 12, 13 things that I had to do every day for 5 days. And I look at that now and I'm like, why didn't I do Saturday and Sunday? Like, what were you doing? And so I'm wondering because I remember when it was for me, but was there a time for you where you thought, yeah, I just, like you said there, you wanted more accountability, so you've got a person in place now, but where you noticed that, yeah, I was only growing, say, a couple of times a week, or you're only making yourself as accountable a few times a week before you said, and maybe you don't do it every day now, or maybe you do, but where you said, no, I need to change it. It needs to be this. I need more accountability.
Well, look, Rob, here's the reality, and here's a stark truth. If I'm not reading much and I start reading and I'm reading, let's say, 10 pages every 15 minutes, eventually over time, I might be able to read 12 pages or 15 pages. Sorry, 20 pages in 10 minutes. And sorry, what was I saying? 15 pages. Anyway,
Yeah.
you get my point. I'm reading more pages in the same amount of time. Let's just say that. Got my tongue twisted there. So I'm getting better at the things that I was doing just because I have more experience.
Mm.
Does that mean I can do more? Yes, I have. Perhaps I've now shaved a few minutes here and there for the various things that I'm doing. Now, with that extra time, because of increased efficiency or just being better at it, I can now fill that with other things. So again, I can look at what's important in my life. Is it more important for me to focus more on my health with that extra time that I just received? Should I use it towards relationships with friends and family? Perhaps there's a hobby that I've been wanting to try for a long time that I've pushed aside. I can use it there. So what I'm trying to get with this is just being more conscious and more aware. Because whenever you start something, it will take you longer. You're not going to be as good at it, but you will one day go from novice to expert. And once you're an expert, you're just doing it a lot faster and more efficiently. So you get to choose what you want to do with that extra time that's opened up. But if you have no clue of what success means to you, will you make the right choice on how to utilize that time? Because there's always stuff to do. There's always room for growth. But I always ask, at what cost? Can I earn more money, for example? Yes. But what will that mean to the other 6 summits?
Mm.
Can I spend twice as much time with the family as I do right now? Sure, I can. But what does it mean to the other 6 summits?
Yeah.
So find that rhythm that works for you, but also understand that You will get better at things. You will be doing things more efficiently. I mean, look, here's my example. I used to wake up and I was just on the run. I wake up, get the kids ready, drop them to school, work out, quick breakfast, get to the office, work, quick lunch, work, get home just in time to put the kids to bed, spend some time, have dinner, spend some time with wife and or parents, friends, go to bed, next day repeat.
Yeah.
I didn't really take any time out for myself. And then I realized that how am I supposed to grow if I don't invest in myself?
Yeah.
So I started, having this morning ritual. I started doing things more for myself. Now, fast forward 10 years from when I began that journey, I'm waking up earlier. I'm sleeping earlier as well. Even though I wake up, let's say around 5 o'clock or somewhere around there, any time between 4:45 and 5:30, I don't put an alarm and just naturally get up. I don't get to the office till 10:30.
Hmm.
Now people are like, why does it take you so long to get to the office? I said, it doesn't take me long. I've prioritized certain things that are very important for me that I
Yeah.
take care of in the morning, which is myself, spending time a little bit with my wife, a little bit of time with the kids before they go to school, the exercise, the meditation, the reading, getting some work done in my own peaceful space before I enter the office. So when I enter the office, then I can focus on all the requirements that my team members need of me, if there are any, right? So I'm leaving work earlier. Now I'm having dinner with the kids because that's the life that I wanted to design. So I
Yeah.
leave the office at least an hour earlier than I used to. So technically I'm working fewer hours, but because the focus is more, because the clarity is more, I'm actually generating more revenue in the fewer hours that I'm working.
Yeah.
Now, can I stay in the office longer and earn more? Yes. Does that mean I have to give up my morning ritual or maybe miss the dinner with the kids? Probably. Is that something I want to do? No.
Yeah.
So there's always room for more. There's always room for growth, but you have to know what the other side looks like. Because when you say yes to something, you've said no to a bunch of other things, and vice
Yes.
versa.
Yes. Yeah, it's a constant balancing match, isn't it? I think for me personally, it's required some really deep reflection over decades, really, to say, well, what's important right now? And because those things you mentioned right now, well, at some point the kids move out, right? Well, at least you kind of hope so. And then you're in that different phase of your life. So that being home early to be with the kids is, well, that's not one of them now. Staying connected with them, well, that's a different thing. But I just find that so my daughter, she moved out in August last year. So this is the first time in my life where it's just been me. Now I have a very busy client schedule and everything, but it's a different part of life. So then when I'm not with clients, it's like, okay, well, I've just got the cat and me, and it's just different to what it would have been, say, 15 years ago. So it's you're just juggling that, aren't you? Look,
Yeah, and I love what you said, Rob, because what you're saying is that your definition of success doesn't even stay constant. It's not something that's
yeah,
written, it's not set in stone. As your life is shifting into new phases, how you see the world shifts as well. And with that, you may tweak your definition of success along the
yes,
way,
yeah, that's right.
right?
That's right. And I think you're always just working on these fundamentals. I come back to what you were saying before about alignment, but I've never before I've been more focused on, my values and beliefs. And I mean, they can be, I'm not a particularly, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious, but I'm talking about beliefs in terms of what I believe are right for humanity and all that kind of stuff. Thinking about those things and what aligns with me and where I do want to be having fun, where I am adding more value than I've ever added before. And I don't know what's coming, but I know that my foundation, which I keep reinforcing every single day with my work ethic and focus and who I connect with and all that kind of stuff, it means that whatever I build above is going to be huge. And I don't exactly know what it is, but I know that if I focus on things like becoming a better man, a better human every single day, then only good can come out of that. And I think that's exciting, but I continue to I guess, not settle with who I am. And that means that everything then comes from a place of overflow rather than this is what I have to do. It's like I'm so full, so it's like a cup, everything's bubbling out over the top because there's just so much greatness that I feel that there is to give. And I think we're all limitless and we've all got this ability to keep on growing and shining and adding values to others. And I think the true gift and the true success in life is discovering what that is and knowing that it just doesn't end. It's just more than whatever it is that you're doing right now. You're doing great, but just let's just do more. How do we create more of that? And that I
Right.
think,
I just want to pause there a second because what you said is so important. It's about the incremental improvements you make on a daily basis. You didn't just go from 5 out of 10 to 7 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 in one day. It was small steps every single day, being intentional about it. And what I love about what you just shared as well, Rob, is many times I tell people, and again, I'm using the mountain analogy. You may have a path mapped out that takes you to the summit. Now, while you're going up that path, you all of a sudden you encounter this other path and you go, huh, I didn't even know this path existed. And this actually, based on the conditions right now, is probably a better option. I should take this new path.
yeah,
But had you just been pondering on things and taken no action at all, you would have never seen it. You would be at the base of the mountain. And then one day again, you'll just wake up and go, should have, would have, could have, regret, blah, blah, blah. But
yes,
you kept taking steps forward. And when you saw something better, you think, okay, let's shift gears a little bit, move on to this other path. But you're still constantly moving upwards, which is fantastic.
yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. Look, we are out of time, so I've got to get to my next session. Unfortunately, we could keep talking. I'll have to get you back on for another time, Sahil. But if people want to connect with you, I am going to put some links down below here. But what is the best way that people can connect with you?
The best way, Rob, is to get to me through my website. That's www.sahilmehta.com/success, because that will then allow them to attend this webinar that will kickstart their journey of discovering what success means to them. What's the clutter that's maybe holding them back, and what are steps that they can take to ensure they have momentum. So that's www.sahilmehta.com/success.
Terrific. And so I want to give you the final word. What would you say is the greatest piece of advice you've ever received?
If it doesn't give you inner peace, don't do it.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Well done. Well, Sahil, it's been fantastic to connect with you here today. We will definitely get you back on another call in the future. Thank you so much for all the work that you do and the value that you're adding out there in the world. And it's been an honor to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you everyone for listening.